The final whistle blew. Spain were champions of the world. And then something unusual happened. The people who actually play this game for a living, the legends, the winners, the men who normally hide behind diplomatic non-answers, stopped being polite. One by one, in studios and mixed zones and post-match interviews across 3 continents, they started saying the quiet part out loud. And when you line up what they said side by side, it stops sounding like a bunch of separate opinions and starts sounding like a verdict. A unanimous one. So forget what I think for a second. Let the witnesses talk, because the footballers just told you the truth about Spain versus Argentina, music, and it's brutal. Let me set the scene fast, because you probably watched it and you definitely felt it. Spain 1, Argentina, music, 0. After extra time, a Ferran Torres finish in the 106th minute, settling a final that Spain had controlled, music, from almost the first pass. Argentina, the defending world champions, Lionel Messi's Argentina, did not register a single shot in the first half and did not manage one on target across the entire 120 minutes. The match itself was a war of attrition, nearly 50 fouls in total, for Argentina yellow cards, a contest that eschewed entertainment for sheer on-field brutality. Enzo Fernandez got himself sent off in the dying seconds of normal time for a studs-down lunge that launched a teenager into orbit, leaving Argentina to survive extra time with 10 men. And when it ended, instead of accepting it, several of their players tried to fight, music, the winners. That's the game. Now here's what the football world said about it. Start with the man who never softens anything. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, a person who has spent his entire career refusing to flatter anyone, looked at this final and delivered it flat. Football won today. He pointed straight at the 0, Argentina's 0 shots on goal, and said they finally got what they deserved. That they played dirty and that the whole world just watched how weak they really were. When Zlatan, of all people, is telling you a team was weak, that's not a hot take. That's a diagnosis. Then the tactical mind stepped in, and this is the part one want, music, you to really hear, because it reframes everything. Thierry Henry wasn't interested in the fights. He was mesmerized by what Spain did without the ball. When Spain lost possession, Henry noted, they wanted back within about 3 passes, every single time, because all 11 players defended with a discipline he called genuinely remarkable. And that's the detail casual viewers miss. Music, when people say a game was boring, they're usually watching the team with the ball. Henry was watching the team without it. And what he saw was 11 players pressing as one organism, cutting off every escape route, suffocating the reigning champions so completely that Argentina's attack simply had nowhere to, music, breathe. Sit with that. The story of this final wasn't just that Argentina were nasty. Music, it's that Spain built a machine so complete that Argentina were never allowed to touch the ball long enough to hurt them. Micah Richards backed it up on music, the other side of the punditry aisle, singling out Rodri, the Golden Ball winner, back from a serious knee injury. A lot of people used to write him off over as the best midfielder in the tournament, hands down. Richards also reminded everyone that Pep Guardiola had flat-out predicted Rodri would return to his peak at exactly this World Cup. Think about the year this man has stitched, music, together. The Euros, the Ballon d'Or, a brutal knee injury, and a comeback most players never manage, and now a World Cup, becoming the first Manchester City player ever to captain a side to the trophy. Richards looked at that trophy cabinet and just said, wow. Pep called it. Rodri delivered it. Spain lifted it. And the man who engineered the whole thing, Spain boss Luis de la Fuente, gave away the secret afterward without a hint of arrogance. The plan, he explained, was built first and foremost around keeping Messi at bay and other dangerous Argentines away from goal through sheer collective attitude, everyone sacrificing for the group. Then he said the line that should terrify the rest of the planet. If it hadn't been for Argentina's goalkeeper, Spain would have won by more. That's not a boast. Look at the stat sheet, and it's just a fact. And to prove he was still human, De La Fuente joked about Marc Cucurella's music, now famous vow to tattoo the coach's face if Spain won. I'm not so ugly, though, he said, knowing full well those players are men of their word, and now legally obligated to get his face inked on their bodies forever. That's a champion's dressing room. Loose, bonded, and lethal. Now, back to the ugly stuff, because the footballers did not let it slide. And this is where the verdict became unanimous. Roy Keane, a man who spent his career happily kicking people, who genuinely loves the physical side of the sport, drew the line. On Argentina's antics, he said simply, "You've got to take your medicine." His point cut deep because he noted these were the same Argentina players doing this stuff to England's players a few nights earlier. And now that it came back around, they couldn't handle it. In football, being told you can dish it out but can't take it is about the worst insult there is. Keane still tipped his cap to music, Spain. "Fantastic to watch," he said, "the way they wore Argentina down." But the message on the losers was clear. Gary Neville went harder. "It's a disgrace," he said on ITV, and crucially, he said it while praising Argentina's competitiveness, while admitting he loves their fight, while acknowledging Messi has propped this team up for years. That's what made it land. This wasn't a hater. This was someone who respects them telling the world that Argentina had disgraced themselves over their last couple of games, and openly wondering why referees kept letting it happen. Alan Shearer painted the picture even more vividly, describing Leandro Paredes throwing 2 or 3 haymakers into someone's face, and saying there's simply no place for that. That everyone understands how much losing hurts, but there's a way to lose, and Argentina, too many times, refused to find it. Joe Hart on the BBC needed just music, 2 words for the after-whistle scenes. Disgusting behavior. He said Argentina could have absolutely no complaints about the result. And while he thought Rodri didn't need to get in their faces, he understood it after 120 minutes of being wound up. And Wayne Rooney, watching Paredes keep going and going long after someone had already been crowned world champion, called it embarrassing and not good enough, pointing out that Paredes is better than that. He just chose not to be. So, let's actually look at what they were reacting to because the footage cleared it up. The whole brawl had a spark and the cameras found it. As Spain's substitute, music, sprinted onto the pitch to celebrate, Rodri jogged past Nahuel Molina and Molina punched him in the chest. Rodri stopped, turned, squared up. Eric Garcia stepped in to separate them, music, and that's when Paredes arrived, shoved Garcia by the throat, dumped him to the ground, and then swung at Gavi and knocked him down, too, while Scaloni sprinted around like a substitute teacher trying, music, to stop a playground from burning down. Over on the side, Nicolas Otamendi got in Rodri's face with a jab that had nothing to do with football and everything to do with sour grapes. "You were crying all week," he told him, accusing Spain of working, music, the referees. That was Argentina's argument, by the way, that Aymeric Laporte had publicly complained before the game about Argentina's music, rough play and thereby pressured the official, which is a fascinating defense. We're not the problem. The problem is that people accurately described us in advance. Then came the moment that even the Argentine coach could not spin, though he tried. When Spain climbed up to lift the trophy, Argentina reportedly turned their backs and Scaloni, through floods of tears at his press conference, as insisted his players had shown that they know how to lose. It was a strange thing to say about a night that featured a red card for petulance, nearly 50 music, fouls, a mass brawl, and a snubbed trophy ceremony. But here's where I have to stop and be fair. Because the footballers were fair, too. And the truth has more than one layer. Because Scaloni's tears were real. This is a man who won the whole thing in 2022 and came within one disciplined opponent of retaining it. And he was gutted to his core. "Losing this hurts me deep in my soul," he said, before admitting outright that Spain were the better side and deserved to win. He called Messi the best footballer ever to step onto a field, marveled that at 39 the man is still doing this, and said he had no complaints about a single one of his players. Then he cast doubt on his own future. His contract, music, runs to December, and he confessed he would need to talk to his federation, that he would need to reset his own mind, that assembling a group like this again might simply never be possible. "It'll be hard to put together another team like this," he managed, music, before choking up and walking out of the room mid-sentence. Whatever you think of how his players behaved, the man leading them was broken up over the beauty of what they had built and the pain of watching it end. And Neville was right that Messi propped this team up, a genius surrounded, as one German pundit music, charitably put it, by teammates who do not share his feel for the game. Messi himself did not brawl, he wept. And even the harshest critics left a door open for fairness. Keane, for all his take your medicine music scorn, went on to suggest we maybe shouldn't be too brutal on Argentina, that stripped of Messi's magic for once, were at least trying to find a different way to win a game they were losing. Being physical, being cynical, riding the edge of the rules, that's a tactic as old as the sport, and it's not automatically a crime. The crime, music, everyone agreed, came after the whistle, when the tactic had already failed, and there was nothing left to play for but pride they refused to show. And Spain, to their enormous credit, stayed classy in a way that made Argentina's meltdown look even worse by contrast. Music, De La Fuente praised his players as amazing, praised the sacrifice, refused to gloat about Messi. And Ferran Torres, the man whose goal won the World Cup, gave the quote of the night. Not a word about himself, not a word about Argentina.